During the Cold War, all these proxy wars, was it good that we were just like letting off steam in these smaller ways, and that therefore we could avoid the bigger Great War?
It wasn't letting off steam. It was horrendous. I don't know the answer. In fact, uh, my current project is a history of the Cold War, and I've read a lot of things, and I will combine. I'm going to compile a lot of tables on things like this, just putting the data together. It'll take a long time, but then when you get the table, it'll be a really quick skim. So if you've got a civil war churning somewhere in Latin America or somewhere in Africa, so no one's aiding it, fine. Then if you have Russia puts its finger on the scale, then of course we're going to put our finger on the scale. So that means the Russians are providing industrial age weapons. We're providing industrial age weapons. What happens? Casualties just go through the roof. And that's what went on through the Cold War. And then there this magical inter-Cold War period when all that stopped. And that's when you get this tremendous growth across the third world because there aren't these insurgencies just tearing up wealth. And then you could see recently, look at North Africa, it's a mess right now, right? It's both ISIS or whatever it is in there is doing its stuff, and then you have Wagner Group or whatever they are in there, and then you have the Chinese further south, and everybody's fueling everything. You got civil war all over the place. And then that means military age males want to get out because people kill you, right? Or they'll either dragoon you into fighting where you don't want to fight, or they'll just kill you outright. So they're all trying to get into boats to Europe, which is destabilizing. It's a mess. We're in the second Cold War, and this is part of it.
What were like the biggest miscalculations that people were making? Were they too suspicious of the other side? Were they not suspicious enough? Were they like too concerned about basis, and or
I don't
what
know.
were they missing?
I need to think more about that because I think there are probably all sorts of things. And also, it's impossible to know the right thing to do. And then afterwards, when it pans, you go, well, that was a mess. It's hard to know. But I think it was probably a terrible mistake when Eisenhower thought, here's the Supreme Command, Allied commander of World War II, who knows all about hot wars, doesn't want to do that. When the United States deposes Mossadegh in Iran in 1954, I can see Eisenhower's view is, hey, we're just deposing one guy, and we're going to avoid the Russians taking oil fields here, etc. And he thinks that's a better trade-off. Well, the Iranians have never forgotten that. They're furious to this day. And wouldn't you be if you're Iranian? Mossadegh was democratically elected. Or another time, actually in Vietnam, we didn't push the South Vietnamese to hold elections because we knew Ho Chi Minh would win. He was the only national figure in Vietnam. So the United States is all about free elections. The Vietnamese could have run a free election and Ho Chi Minh would have won. That was our assessment that he would win. Okay, well, if you're for free elections, it means you don't get the outcome you want. And I wonder if that wasn't a terrible mistake because the Vietnamese actually can't stand the Chinese. So they were always going to be a counterbalance to the Chinese. But due to the McCarthy era, we'd purged all of our China experts, all these children of missionaries who knew a great deal about China, less so about Vietnam, but at least it's a related cultural group. So we had gotten rid of all that expertise in the McCarthy era. So we're running blind in Asia.